Hello everyone, thanks a lot for attending this session. Today I'm gonna introduce you on what we did at Doctolib to use APIs to supercharge our design system. So here's a summary of what we're gonna talk about. First, a quick definition of a design system. What is the status of APIs in the design system world, and what we did at Doctolib to leverage these APIs to improve our design system. Brief introduction about myself. Sorry for this connection. I'm working since 15 years, almost, in the design field. I've been working in communications at agencies, startups, scale-ups, as first graphic designer, brand designer, and product designer. But now I'm lead design ops at Doctolib. I think you all know about Doctolib. Thanks. Doctolib is a 10-year-old company. We are managing many users. I won't go in details on part. We're almost 3,000 employees working at Doctolib, and we're addressing 3 markets where are based our teams. France since the beginning, Germany since 2016, and Italy since last year. Our solution, I bet many of you have already taken an appointment at Doctolib, so this is only like 10 or 15% of our activity, to be truly honest. The real tools are on the B2B part. Of course, we have the online booking tool that you're using as patient, and for that we have a B2B version, of course. We have what is called Doctolib Practice, which is a practice management software for practitioners and healthcare personnel to create prescriptions, to manage their patient files, to do the billing. Doctolib Team, it's a tool to ease the communication between healthcare professionals. Basically, it's a WhatsApp for practitioners, but secured and end-to-end encrypted, and with specific medical features on it, obviously. Doctor Hospital, with specific solutions to hospitals, like online check-in, and to be launched in the coming weeks, Doctolib Physiotherapist. We have also 2 add-ons, video consultation that you may have seen during this COVID period, and Doctolib Reader. It's more technical tool for practitioners. So let's speak a bit about our team. I think we are one of the biggest design team in Europe at Doctolib. We are almost 70 employees working in the design team, split in 5 teams, and soon 6 teams, because I'll manage the design system part, fully dedicated to this design system part in the coming weeks. All these people are using our design system, alongside with 300 software engineers. So for at least 400 people using our design system. So who knows what is the design system? Just raise your hand. Yep, many people, nice. So basically, when we're talking design system, people are thinking components, reusable components, or UI kit, or stuff like that. But it's a bit more wide. Of course, there are components, but the component is the smallest part of the design system. A design system is a tool or a product. You can define how you want to define it. But the idea is to be able to create brand-aligned products at scale. It includes all that part, assets, documentation, processes, something that is really neglected when we're speaking about design systems. We are lucky enough at Doctolib to have a UX writing team, a huge brand design team. All these assets are part of our design system, of course. And this is not an exhaustive list of all the people and all the things we're doing, but for instance, patterns. Patterns can be how to shape a form online, how to manage feedback errors. Is this button disabled when the input fields are not filled? Stuff like that. This is also part of the design system. I won't go in details on this representation of a design system. I put the link. You can go on sparkbox.com, which is explaining this scope of the design system team. Basically, you have 4 layers: foundations, the one that is the more wide, logo, color palette, fonts used. until components, all the reusable part like radio button, checkbox, inputs. And all these layers are split in 3 parts: assets, processes, documentations. Processes is human part in the design system, is really important. Contribution, we're speaking a lot of contribution model. I don't know one company that has really found a solution to have a really stable contribution model. If you know, I'm really interested. About benefits of having a design system, first one is consistency. If you have reusable part, of course, all your components can be used on any platforms. Could be a mobile app, native mobile app, could be on a WordPress website, could be on anything. But all the components are the same, look the same. We're still in the same visual identity. Second, really important thing, and they are all linked. It's about cost. If your developer don't have to recreate each time a component, a specific component, then it's a gain of time. If your designer can reuse always the same component, no need to take 1 day to create a prototypes. Maybe in 2 hours it's done, and then you can user test your prototypes. And last but not least is about relations between developers and designers. This is where usually happen some frictions. Designers and developers are not really speaking the same language. I see that every day on any companies. And this really helps creating this relation between designers and developers. So let's talk a bit about APIs and design systems. I can't talk of APIs in the design system world without speaking of token. A token is a design decision. Basically, for instance, our corporate color is this hexadecimal blue. This decision is transferred into a token, and this token can be formatted and distributed on any platform. Could be iOS, could be Android, could be web, of course, or any tool like Figma or Photoshop. Design tool, I mean. And this is really interesting at scale. Let me provide an example. So this button, for instance, is the official Doctolib call to action that we're using on any platform. So you can have an icon left, icon right, padding. We always have border radius of 4 pixels. This border radius is a design decision. We set border radius at 4 pixels. And if you see this background color, I just put the shape of a token, color background button primary default. This is a state, a design decision. We decided that this button, this background color of this button is looking like that. So what we're seeing emerging since few years in the design system world is many tools, notably about tokens, but also many plugins shipped mainly by Figma. Figma is really the most loved design product of all product designers. Amazon has shipped a token manager. Salesforce has shipped also its token manager. These are the 2 key leaders in token management. And about Figma plugins, recently Token Studio also is a token manager inside Figma. Soon Figma will release something about tokens. It's on their roadmap. Jira also has released a plugin, Jira plugin, to link Figma, to synchronize your Figma to a Jira ticket. So it's really cool to see directly in Figma what is happening on Jira. Same for Storybook Connect. You can play directly on Figma and see a story that is on Storybook. And at Doctolib, we're using also Phrase, a localization tool. And with Phrase, you're able to manage all your translations and make some push or pull directly from Figma. So if we have an interface in English, for instance, a designer is just able, using Phrase, to pull some German translations, for instance, and then the layout is in German. Prototypes can be shipped to be user tested. And some companies are like Doctolib and other companies are creating internal tools. I think it's mainly big companies because we need devs to be implied in the design system to create such tools. And if I had to mention one, I would mention Uber. For instance, Uber is creating many advanced plugins for designers directly on Figma. So if we just step back a bit and think, this is more a philosophical pointer. An API is something that helps two software communicating together. So I think, and this is my opinion, that we can do the same with design system. And this is really the mindset that we're trying to have at Doctolib. Developers are speaking about code structure, while designers are speaking more of emphasis and hierarchy. We don't speak the same language. And I really think this design system can foster to improve this relation between developers and designers. So let me show you what we did at Doctolib and how we use APIs to improve our design system. Oops, sorry. First, let me introduce our design system. It's called Oxygen. You can see it directly on this URL. It's a public repo where everything can be seen. UX writing guidelines, components, foundations, even the brain resources available to anyone. A bit of context around Oxygen. Doctolib has been launched in 2013, and the design system team is really existing since mid-2022. In between, we had a task force end of 2019. So all that time, it means that we had no design system. Everyone was working in silo. Designers were working on Sketch, then Figma on the side. Developer are as kind of a shared library, but that's it. It means that we have a huge legacy, a huge custom craft on all our code base. Since 2022, we're now 4 persons, and in the coming months will be 7 to work on the design system. But we are already a big design system team in the design system world. So if you have to remember something, huge legacy, many custom, and no real governance until mid-2022. So it's not clear to any developer at Doctolib who is managing the design system and how to contribute and how to find help, basically, on front. Even more that at Doctolib, all developers are full-stack developers, so they're not working at all with front end, so that's quite tricky for us. So how it looks like at Doctolib, so we have Figma. This is a Figma example. This component is a pill. You can see the board of the component. You can see the guidelines directly on it. We have others library. Won't go deep in details about that. On developer side, we are using Storybook, so you get the same component here on Storybook with all the components. Of course, the developer can play with the component using the properties directly on the right. And we also embedded Figma directly on Storybook. So a developer can see the component, play with the component, and read guidelines. No need to leave Storybook. And we're using 08, the URL I mentioned you, as public repo. And this is what is really interesting, to be truly honest. Currently, the design system is not a package in itself. It's in the monolith, meaning it can be used on any WordPress. It can be used on a mobile app. So if today Doctolib wants to create a native mobile app, then we need to recraft everything. So that's a real issue. Team ratio. We have 1 developer working for the design system right now, against 300 developers in the company. So this guy has a lot of work. Many years of legacy and custom code. And last but not least, as we were working a bit in silo between designers and developers, we have what we call drift, is discrepancies between Figma and Storybook. So a component that a designer is using is not the same on Storybook. Not good. What we want to achieve, of course, is to have 0 design depth. I mean, no more legacy code. And, of course, leaving the monolith to be able to craft any mobile app, any native mobile app, easily without always recrafting everything. And for that, we have a prerequisite is to have tokens, something we don't have yet. Question is how to do that with 3 persons. So what we envision for that, it's not possible yet. What we thought for that, we wanted to capitalize on the manpower of feature teams. We identify 3 levers: time, training, and tools. Time, it's not an issue, it's just a trade-off with the product teams and tech teams to have some developers' bandwidth. Training is something we're going to do on a second time. But first, and to make the developers more autonomous and designers, we decided to capitalize and create some tools. First tools we deployed is called APIscene. Basically, it's a Figma plugin based on the Figma API to measure the compliance of all the layouts shipped by our designers. This way, a designer, sometimes designers are just making iterations and go fast on iterations, and then they create a rectangle, do a text, but this is not a component. This thing can be a button maybe. With this tool, designers can directly spot which layer is not design system compliant. So if the layout shipped by designer to the developer before the handover is already clean, then we limit the risk of limiting the risk of creating debt. Second tool we deployed is called X-Ray. It's a Chrome extension that analyzed the code basically directly on production. So for instance, on this page, B2B page, you can see that everything that is highlighted in green is a design system component. Everything that is highlighted in orange, like this huge bar on top, is a legacy component, meaning a component that has been created before the design system, something that is widely shared but not officially in the design system. And in red, like this big block on the bottom, it's a deprecated component. Deprecated component is basically just a legacy component for which we have an alternative in our official list of components. This screen is really green. In fact, it's more the contrary. It's more red than green. And last tool we deployed is what we call component stage. Not really glam name, but it makes the job. It's a Figma widget. So on Figma, you can create widgets only with React. That provides us kind of a quality note on our components based on different criteria. So it's more for us an internal tool for the Oxygen team. Good news is, all these tools are generating data. This data is pushed through Redshift, and with all this data, we're able to have dashboards. With these dashboards, we can see the design system coverage on our product, I mean live product, and also on design side. So we are also able to see the population that needs training. If certain designers are not using the design system component, it maybe means that this person needs more training. Same for developers. Some developers are not using, or sometimes are using only legacy components. Maybe they need, it's just an habit. Maybe we just need to go to see these developers to explain how to work with the design system. And above all, it helps us having a clear vision of our design depth. We have real figures on our design depth. Something I didn't mention on the previous slide, this one, is that anything that is not highlighted is custom craft, like this input on top, but we have input on our design system. It means this one's totally custom. So yeah, Fayad, to conclude, and here I just put the 3 things to remember. There's a guy called Matthew Strom, really well skilled about design system and APIs. He talked years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago, about networked design system. The idea behind this notion is to create a set of applications around a design system. As soon as we don't have one tool for designer, developer, and to be able to work on the same tool, we will always need to have plugins, we'll always need to have connections between tools. And this is a huge lever to, this is a conclusion, not way. This is a huge lever for small teams, and design system teams are usually really small. It's only 1 or 2 employees or people working part-time for the design system because they are doing other things just next to this design system topic. About our experience, since we deployed this tool, we see lots of benefits, such as teams are more autonomous, teams are more involved. Some developers are really helping us now, developers that we've never heard about. They are helping us to contribute to the design system, so this is a real good side effect. So, and my last point is, if you want to start a design system, of course, focus on the design and the craft on the dev side, but don't forget to include APIs really soon in the process to create such plugins to not generate debt and drift as we did. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Jerome.